What is it about young people that makes them not want to live with older people? Because of these two things. Do you ever think about the good things that might happen if grandparents moved in with their grandchildren? We look at some real-life examples in this video that show how hard it can be to live with people of different generations and how this arrangement usually causes more problems than it fixes. You will learn about the emotional and practical problems that families have, like Grandpa's moving thoughts on family support and your sister Wong's terrible event. Read this article all the way to the end to get some important information that could change how you think about family relationships and help everyone get along better. This video will help you avoid the problems that come with taking care of aging parents and make family relationships stronger. Before we begin, I want to thank you for taking this moment for yourself. Be sure to stay until the end. I'll be sharing a small but powerful insight that's helped many people feel more balanced and hopeful. Kindly like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you'll always know when something new is waiting for you. And if you're listening now, please type, "I'm listening" with an open heart. It's a gentle way to connect, and I do read every message. Now let's begin. Today I will talk about why it's often better for older people not to live with their children. Even though most people think it's great, living with adult children isn't always a breeze. In the past, especially in the 1950s and 1960s, when housing was scarce, it was common for elderly people to live with their adult children. People of different ages thought that living together would strengthen family ties, and this arrangement usually worked out well. These living arrangements did change how they worked over time, though. More and more fights broke out, and step-parents and daughters-in-law or mothers-in-law were the main targets. As what had been a friendly agreement began to fall apart, relationships became tense and, in the worst cases, violent fights broke out. These kinds of problems should happen less often in bigger homes, which is why they might seem strange when they do. But we've seen the opposite happen. These days, it can be a real pain for an elderly parent to live with their children. It seems like a contradiction that parents don't want to be involved in their kids' lives, and kids want to stay single or in a serious relationship. To see this point more clearly, think about the sad story of Sister Wong. Sister Wong had a terrible stroke last year when she was 58 years old. Even though she was very sick, her son and daughter-in-law left her in her hometown. They not only kept their distance from one another physically, but they also avoided communication. Strangely, even though they had left Sister Wong, they asked her husband Brotherly to go with them to the city to watch their child. Sister Wong and Brotherly felt completely helpless and sad after this happened. This event brings to light a bigger problem. What happens when family members give in too much and don't plan ahead? Sharing the story of Sister Wong and Brotherly shows how hard it is for parents to live with their grown children. Even though everyone is doing their best, it's important to remember that living together isn't always the best way to keep the peace and stay healthy. According to LA family tradition, there can only be one male heir per generation. This has been very carefully followed throughout their history. They have loved and spoiled their son since the day he was born, treating him with the utmost respect, as if he were made of gold. He continued to get lots of special attention as he grew up with Sister Wong's careful care and guidance. When he turned 18, he married a girl from a nearby village who had been set up to meet him in a formal way. After getting married, though, things changed a lot. The son, who used to be the spoiled heir, has become a submissive husband because of his wife. His behavior changed a great deal. He has become so used to following his wife's instructions that he doesn't dare say anything different. These days, it's thought to be very important for family harmony for a husband to completely follow what his wife wants. The daughter-in-law was unhappy with the size of their house soon after her son got married. Even though Sister Wong, her husband, their son, and the daughter-in-law lived in a 2-story home that was more than enough space for them, the daughter-in-law insisted on leaving. She said that the house was messy and used that as an excuse to tell Sister Wong and her husband to leave. Sister Wong was mentally ready for the possibility of moving, but she was surprised by how quickly her son and daughter-in-law asked her to make the change. Sister Wong temporarily moved in with her mother-in-law because she felt helpless and couldn't say no to their request. She would move to the newly built house as soon as it was finished. Please leave the first comment below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me and that you think these lessons are helpful. However, just as Sister Wong and her husband were getting used to their new home and feeling calmer, new problems came up. While the daughter-in-law kept making demands, they were getting heavier and heavier. Soon after, the couple had a child. To make sure the child had the best education, the daughter-in-law insisted that Sister Wong buy an apartment in the city. Buying a city apartment would cost hundreds of thousands of yuan, which was all they had saved. They were pressured to follow through, or they would have more fights and risk divorce from their son and daughter-in-law. Sister Wong and her husband were in a terrible situation because they felt helpless and defeated. They borrowed money from everyone they could think of to buy their son an apartment in the city so that he and his family could have a better future. Once they finally bought the apartment, their son and his family moved into the new home in the city. But their problems were far from over. Unexpectedly, and very upsettingly, they had to think about how to care for their grandchild. Although the daughter-in-law had wanted to split up with her husband before because of the chaos in the family home, she now wanted Sister Wong to move to the city to care for the child. Sister Wong was especially upset by this new demand because she had just found comfort and some peace after the family split up. Sister Wong and her husband felt compelled to meet their son's needs, even though she didn't want to at first, and it was hard for her to leave the peace and quiet of her rural life. They got their things together and took a bus from their home in the country to the city. While Sister Wong was getting used to living in the city, she found comfort in cooking and cleaning up the apartment. The situation got worse over time, though. The daughter-in-law started to criticize Sister Wong's work, saying that the cleaning wasn't done well and that she wasn't doing enough. Even though some of the criticism was fair, it seemed to come from a personal grudge rather than genuine dissatisfaction. Sister Wong's son knew that his wife was intentionally making trouble, but he was too scared to talk to her about it. Instead, he started to agree with her about how bad his parents were, which made Sister Wong's problems even worse. Sister Wong sought comfort in private talks with her husband because she felt deeply wronged, but there wasn't much they could do to make things better. The final blow came when Sister Wong found out that her daughter-in-law had given away the specialties she had lovingly brought from their home in the country. When she told her daughter-in-law about this, the daughter-in-law got angry, and the argument got worse and worse until it got physical. Sister Wong, hurt and seeking justice, turned to her son for assistance. Sadly, her son, paralyzed by fear of his angry wife, only told his mother to put up with the abuse. After hearing this, Sister Wong felt alone and betrayed, and she could not stand the thought of being mistreated in the home she had given so much to support. Sister Wong had enough and decided to leave the city and go back to her home in the country, where she had found comfort in the past. But her problems were far from over. The daughter-in-law was unhappy with the situation and threatened to divorce again. To protect her son's marriage, Sister Wong had to leave her peaceful retreat and go back to the city to care for her grandchild. During the years she lived in the city, she was always upset, mostly because of her tense relationship with her daughter-in-law. Their disagreements caused a lot of stress for a long time. Sister Wong's health finally got worse when she was diagnosed with a stroke, which made her go back to her home in the country. The time away from her son gave her much-needed mental relief because the constant pain she had been going through in the city was over. Because she was sick, though, she needed care from her husband. The fact that her son didn't cause her any more trouble was seen as a small blessing during her hard times. It's clear that the family dynamics might have been different if the daughter-in-law had treated her in-laws with the same respect and care as she did her own parents. But these thoughts are just guesses. Sister Wang's situation seems to have been determined by fate. This teaches us a valuable lesson. Elderly parents may fare better if they live apart from their children. That's because of several things. First, the world changes quickly, and older people often can't keep up with how people live now. Think about how your habits and tastes have changed over the years. The food you ate as a child, how you dressed, and how you got around and talked to people. Younger people adapt to these changes easily, but older people struggle. Also, there is a lot of tension in the relationship between stubborn mothers-in-law and unreasonable daughters-in-law. You have a reason, I have a reason. Even the most impartial officials struggle to settle such family disputes. Is a wise old proverb that says it all. Mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law can have very complicated interactions with each other. These problems can get worse when people live together, eat together, and go through daily life together. There is a good chance of conflict between a mother-in-law who is stubborn and a gentle daughter-in-law, or between a mother-in-law who is kind and a daughter-in-law who is unreasonable. Because families are so complicated, it's more likely that fights will happen when elderly parents and their adult children live together. The story of Grandpa F is a moving look at how complicated family relationships and expectations can be. Grandpa F, who is 75 years old now, talks about his life with a mix of nostalgia and regret. I have 4 children, 3 sons and a daughter, he says. When I was younger, having many kids was seen as a blessing. People in the village looked up to me, especially since I had 3 sons, and I was never looked down upon. The respect I got made me feel good. It looked like everyone made room for me because they knew who I was. Since I had 4 children, I was sure that they would take good care of me when I got old. This reassurance made me feel safe enough to face the future. Grandpa F feels proud as he talks about how he and his wife worked hard all their lives to give their kids the best. It was hard work every day, but we always put our kids first and hoped that one day they'd take care of us too. We gave up a lot to make sure they were happy and successful because we thought this was the right way to go. Please leave a second comment below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me and that you think these lessons are helpful. Over time, his 3 sons became old enough to get married. Grandpa F and his wife, on the other hand, were having a hard time with money. They had spent all of their savings and even taken on debt to pay for their sons' weddings. I had to keep working long hours on construction sites to pay off the debt. Even though the work was hard, I never complained because I knew I had to carry the debt. I stuck through it for the sake of my family, even though it was hard. Grandpa F made a choice that caused problems when it came time for his daughter to get married. I didn't give her any money for her wedding because I thought it wasn't necessary since she was leaving our home. Instead, I asked her suitor to pay me 500,000 yuan as a bride price. There was no bias in my gift. I gave this whole amount to my sons because I thought they deserved it after taking care of my daughter. It seemed right to get paid for all the work and sacrifice I'd put in. Unfortunately, this choice had effects that were not expected. My son-in-law was mean to me because I paid such a high bride price. He didn't visit very often, and the relationship got tense. I wanted to protect my son's future, but the thing I did that I thought would help ended up tearing my family apart. Grandpa's story shows how family expectations can be hard to balance, how decisions about money can affect relationships, and how actions that are done with good intentions can have results that are hard to predict. It reminds me of how complicated things can get when you have to balance family obligations and help. At the time, I never thought about needing help from my daughter because I thought my sons would be there for me when I got old. I only cared about how I treated them, because I was sure they would be the ones to take care of me when I got older. My wife got sick and died, leaving me to deal with the steady decline of old age. My health got worse over time, and I could no longer work. When I was younger, I worked too much and was sick for years after I retired. I needed care every day. At first, my 3 sons agreed to take turns taking care of me. I was thankful and happy, and I hoped that their care would bring me comfort. But after being with each son for a month, I saw that they weren't reliable. My daughters-in-law didn't like me, which made things worse. And I didn't want to go to their houses because I was afraid I would be mistreated. As I felt more and more helpless, I went to my daughter's house, but my son-in-law didn't like seeing me and was rude to me. Even though my daughter was a good daughter, the high bride price she paid seemed to affect how they treated me. I couldn't feel at peace because one side didn't welcome me, so I chose to go back to my home in the country. I chose to live a simple, self-sufficient life in the country because I would rather not take care of my sons or daughters. Even though my home isn't fancy, I'm happy with it. I now understand that parents who are getting older shouldn't always live with their kids. We can't always do what our kids want us to do. Some parents do anything to make their kids happy, often buying them whatever they want without thinking twice. But this doesn't teach kids to be truly devoted to their parents. It's better to teach them to be responsible and care for others than just give them what they want. Instead, we shouldn't always give our kids what they want right away. Kids need to learn that it takes personal effort and hard work to reach their goals and get what they want. Also, kids need to know that sometimes they have to be patient and wait to get what they want. You can't always get what you want just by asking for it. When kids understand this idea, they will understand how important their accomplishments are and become more grateful for their parents' hard work and sacrifices. It is very important to teach kids how to be obedient. A child who is loyal to their parents is more likely to become a responsible adult who knows and values how important it is to take care of their parents in old age. If we give them everything they want without them having to do anything, they might start to feel entitled and not appreciate what they have. The worst thing that could happen to parents is that their hard work and sacrifices would go unnoticed. Also, it's important to be fair to all kids from a very young age. Don't spoil your kids when you're raising them. Instead, teach them to be thankful, kind, and devoted to their parents. These values will not only help the kids grow as people, but they will also make sure that the parents have a more caring and supportive home as they get older. The relentless march of time becomes clearer over time, especially as people get older and less active, making mistakes more likely. Making sure that kids learn the right values will help their parents have a happier and less stressful old age. Because of this, it is very important to teach kids the value of hard work, patience, gratitude, and parental responsibility. One big and scary question that older people have is whether they can trust their children enough to tell them how much money they have saved. A lot of people are talking about this issue online, and it has gotten a lot of attention. There are now 2 main schools of thought after a lot of debate. 2 different points of view disagree on whether parents should share their financial information with their children. One says they should, and the other says they shouldn't. People who are against transparency say that older people tend to forget things and are easy targets for scams, and that having too much money on them might not be safe. On the other hand, people who don't want to share financial information worry that kids will always want money if they know about savings. It's important to recognize that both points of view are valid and come from real concerns. The 70-year-old woman's answer stood out to me among all these different points of view because it was both harsh and realistic. Aunt Jan is 70 years old and has a son and a daughter. She has a younger son who works in the city after graduating from college, and an older daughter who is married and lives far away. The husband of Aunt Jan died a few years ago because he was sick, She relies on her pension to live alone in her hometown now that she is retired. Her feelings of loneliness are real, but she is able to handle her own business. Please leave the third comment below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me and that you think these lessons are helpful. Aunt Jan put all of her life savings into her children's well-being to make sure they would have a safe and comfortable future. She was very kind and gave her daughter a dowry of more than 100,000 yuan. She also used a lot of her savings to pay for her son's down payment on a house in the city. Even though Aunt Jan did nice things for others, she didn't favor anyone. She was fair and equal in her support. She decided to spend all of her savings and leave herself nothing. One day, Aunt Jan's health changed in a sudden and troubling way. Her legs, which were usually flexible, were now stiff and wouldn't move. She went to the hospital for a first checkup because she was worried. The doctor thought there might be a blood clot and suggested that the patient get more tests at a bigger, better-equipped hospital. Needing help badly, Aunt Jan called her son, who lived in the city, hoping he could go with her to the bigger hospital and help pay for her care. She was upset when her son told her he had to go on a business trip and couldn't join her. Besides that, he said he didn't have any money for hospital and medical bills. Aunt Jan then called her daughter, who lived in a faraway city, because she was upset. She also said that her daughter couldn't leave her own family to help her mother and could only send 1,000 yuan. She suggested that Aunt Jan go to the hospital by herself. Aunt Jan was worried that the amount might not be enough, so her daughter said, "Ask your brother for money. Didn't you give him all your savings?" Aunt Jan was so upset that she hung up the phone. She helped her son with his mortgage payments and other big financial obligations, but she found that he wasted his money, never saved a dime, and wasn't thankful for her giving him so much. The truth is that her kids' reactions to her situation made her feel very let down and alone. As part of her dowry, she bought her daughter a car, but her daughter didn't thank her. Instead, she felt slighted and accused her mother of favoritism, thinking that the mother had given all the money to her brother. John had given up her financial security by giving all her savings to her children, but they didn't care about her well-being and only cared about their own interests. The outcome of this situation demonstrates how money can test relationships and often expose the true nature of family bonds. In some situations, having money can make family ties seem pointless. We need to decide if we should give all of our savings to our kids. People have different thoughts on this. Some people say that giving our savings to our children is the right thing to do because they are our closest family members and will be there for us when we get old. Others think that giving away all of our savings too soon can make us weak and dependent because it takes away our financial freedom and control. Xiao Xiang told a touching story in a group chat. Mrs. Li, his neighbor, had lost her husband young and had to raise her son and daughter, both of whom worked in the city. Mrs. Li lived in the country by herself. Her kids would visit every once in a while, but their busy schedules meant that she wouldn't see them for months at a time. Mrs. Li started having terrible knee pain last year. The village doctor told her she had hurt her knee and had severe arthritis, and he suggested she have surgery in the hospital. When she called her son for help, he was on a business trip and told her to call her daughter instead. She was taken to the hospital by her daughter, who also told her, "You shouldn't have given all your money to my brother." This story shows how challenging it could be and what could go wrong if we give all of our savings to our children. The story shows how misunderstandings and a lack of help can happen when money isn't shared fairly or when kids think they deserve more. In the end, these choices show the complicated realities of getting older and family relationships, where money decisions can have big effects on relationships and personal safety. Mrs. Li had a lot of money saved up from the businesses she ran successfully when she was younger. She had planned on a safe and comfortable retirement, but giving a lot of money to her family changed her plans in a big way. She spent a lot of her savings buying her son and daughter-in-law a house and a car so they could live comfortably. She also gave her daughter-in-law her retirement savings in the hopes of making them like her and getting their help in her later years. Sadly, this action did not lead to the appreciation or support she had hoped for. "Didn't you earn all that money from me during your surgery?" her son would often ask. Her more caring daughter stayed by her side, while her son and daughter-in-law rarely came to see her because they were too busy. The costs of Mrs. Lee's surgery were mostly paid for by her daughter. This situation makes it clear that money problems can put a strain on family relationships, showing that even strong family bonds can be tested by money. Even though Mrs. Lee tried to help others, she ended up in a situation where she felt guilty and needed help. Even though her story may be unique, it shows a bigger truth. Having enough savings can give older people a sense of security and confidence. For many people, being financially stable is more than just a comfort. It's an important form of support that can have a big effect on their quality of life and mental health. 1. Relationships with family. Having an elderly person in the house is often seen as a valuable asset because they help keep the peace in the family and offer advice and support. However, as societal values shift toward personal freedom and expression, there may be problems between older family members and younger family members. Giving savings to kids in the right way can help keep the peace in the family and stop arguments. On the other hand, if people think the distribution is unfair, it can cause arguments and even lawsuits, which can hurt family relationships and cause lasting splits. 2. How good life is. Many older people save money so that they can have a better quality of life in their later years. It is very important that they get a fair share of these savings so that they can retire and live comfortably. Fairness and property distribution are hard to achieve, but must be done. Many older people are happier and more satisfied with their lives when they follow a modern approach that stresses treating all children equally and with care. Instead of using old-fashioned biases, seniors can have a more balanced and satisfying retirement if they focus on fair approaches. Please leave the 4th comment below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me and that you think these lessons are helpful. 3rd, healthcare. Many older people have retirement medical insurance that helps them worry less about medical costs by paying back a lot of them. However, how their savings are spent still has an effect on their care. When a family has more than one child, there may be competition over who gets the savings and who has to take care of the kids. In an ideal world, taking care of aging parents would be seen as a duty that all children share. This smart way of dividing up savings can affect who will be the caregiver when someone gets sick. In the end, sick or elderly parents need company and support, and making sure the family works together is important for their health. Many older people have a hard time figuring out how to divide their savings when they get old. To handle this well and comfortably, older people need to be smart about how they spend their money and time. Here are some ideas and strategies that can help you deal with this complicated issue. Taking a more modern view. In the past, people expected their children to take care of their parents when they got old. This view has changed, though, because of changes and progress in society. Many women today have better jobs and higher statuses than men, so daughters can be big sources of support, just like sons. When a family has only one child, it makes sense to depend on that child for support, no matter what gender they are. Getting the savings spread out evenly. To make sure they have a safe and comfortable old age, seniors should make sure their savings are spread out evenly. They can keep some savings and give the rest to their kids. Some older people choose to have their savings split in half, giving half to their children and keeping the other half for themselves. This way of doing things lets them enjoy their later years without worrying about money, and they can still help their children. Using a will to decide how to spend savings. You can also take care of your savings with a will, which lets older people give their money to their children based on how much care and support they give. This way of doing things makes sure that the distribution is in line with what they wanted and what their children actually gave. Trying not to seem heartless. Finding a balance between taking care of your kids and keeping your own finances in order is important. While it may seem cruel to not give kids money when they need it, it is important to remember that parents should not just be seen as financial crutches. Kids should be pushed to be successful and take care of themselves. Improving how people talk to and understand each other. Families need to be able to talk to each other and understand each other well in order to solve problems related to how to divide savings. When a family has more than one child, it's usually best to divide savings in a fair and balanced way that takes into account each person's situation and contributions. After reaching retirement, older people should share their savings in a way that is both practical and fair, keeping in mind both their own needs and the help they want to give their children. This balanced approach helps make sure that their later years are happy and fulfilling. Thank you for joining us today as we talk about how to handle our savings and how to deal with family issues as we get older. We've looked at some stories and ideas that will make you think about how your savings and financial choices can affect your relationships and quality of life as you get older. If something here spoke to your soul, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to continue walking this path with us. And if you're open to a little universal magic, drop your age in the comments. Many believe that declaring your years with pride sends a ripple of strength and vitality through the universe, and it returns that energy right back to you. Stay strong, stay curious. This is your time to thrive.